Good evening. I want to welcome you to one of many sessions you will be having with me, Prophetess Victoria Scott, all the way from Villa Rica, Georgia. And I am so honored and excited that you took the time out of your busy Christmas season to spend some time with me and just hear the word of the Lord this season. I am honored, I am privileged, and I thank God for you. I pray that this time together will be such a blessing for you, as much as it is for me, even as I'm sharing this word that the Lord has given me. I had posted online that I was going to be sharing on the spirit of excellence versus what excellence is. And so tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about that and what that looks like for this season that we're in right now and why this is so important for us. And I think of it like the story of the 10 virgins that were waiting for the bridegroom, and how 5 of them were considered to be wise and the other were foolish. And the difference between the two sets of women is that one had enough oil to last them for the wait, to last them till their Kairos moment came, whereas the other ones did not prepare enough oil. So even though we know that 2016 is going to be an amazing year, there's still some things that we need to take care of now to prepare for that time or to start walking into that time. And so I guess tonight what I'm going to be sharing with you is that oil. I don't want you to start this new year not having your extra oil waiting for your Kairos moment. I don't want you to be the one who has to leave and be late because you didn't bring enough oil with you. So tonight we're going to be talking about the spirit of excellence and why that is that essential extra oil that you need for this season. And so it began with the Lord just dropping that in my spirit, talking about the spirit of excellence and the spirit of excellence, the spirit of excellence. It just would not stop ringing in my spirit. And so he led me to Daniel, the book of Daniel, where we obviously read about Daniel and how he is known in the word of God as a man who had the spirit of excellence rest upon his life, and how the Lord was just saying that there's so much that we can learn from this man of God and what we can apply, the lessons that we can apply in our lives from him concerning the spirit of excellence. And so that's what I'm going to be sharing tonight. And I pray that you will be blessed. And so the Spirit of the Lord led me to Daniel 5, where Belshazzar, who is the son of Nebuchadnezzar, if you're not familiar with the story, he's just one of those kings of Babylon that just really, he hated anything to do with God. He defiled the things of God. He was just nothing like his father. His father may have had his faults, but he always acknowledged who God was. He had turnaround moments. There was somewhere in his heart where he had a heart that would love the Lord. Belshazzar was completely different, nothing like his father. And so God sends a message by having a writing on the wall telling him that his days were numbered and that his kingdom was going to be taken away from him. And so whenever this happened, nobody knew the interpretation. And so even after he calls his wise men and calls people to come and see what was, what this meant, nobody knew what the writing on the wall was. So it takes his wife to come and say, there is Daniel. There's a man called Daniel, and in him is the spirit of excellence. And then she goes on to say all the other things that he could do and how God used him to interpret dreams and how he served his father Nebuchadnezzar very well. And let me just stop right there. Can I tell you that this season that we are in, this is your season for your name to be in the mouths of people who are going to speak good things concerning you for your promotion. Let me say that again. Your name is going to be in the mouths of people who will speak good things concerning your name and what you have done for your promotion. This is not the time for people. I mean, they'll always be there, but this is not the season where the naysayers get the front row seat and say all kinds of things and say, oh, this one is this. No, the people who are going to be speaking about you now are going to be the ones who are able to speak to the right people and say, have you considered this person? And this is what they've done. This is their testimony. This is their track record. These are the results that they have produced. Come on, somebody. That's really exciting to me. And I'm just so looking forward to what God's going to be doing right here in this season. And so therefore they call Daniel forward, and Belshazzar has put out gifts to say, who does this, I'll reward them this and I'll reward them that. Daniel is so disgusted with Belshazzar. He's like, you can keep all of that. I don't want that, but I will tell you what the word of the Lord is. So he interprets the writing on the wall, and that same evening his kingdom is taken away from him by the Medes led by Darius. Darius the Mede. Darius is the one who's the king over Babylon, and now turning into the Persian Empire and all that kind of stuff. But he's the one who's set in place whenever Daniel is thrown into the lion's den. So that's a whole different king. But when Daniel, when his name is brought up, the thing that I want to point out tonight is the first thing that's described about him is that he has a spirit of excellence. A spirit of excellence. And then all the other things that he does are listed about him. So let's clarify one of the things that the spirit of excellence is not. The spirit of excellence should not be used synonymously with excellence. Excellence is not a bad thing, but it is not the spirit of excellence. You can do something in excellence and not have the spirit of excellence. Whereas when you operate in the spirit of excellence, you tend to do things excellently. And so taking a closer look at that, for excellence is your performance. It's determining to do above and beyond. It's determining to not put anything that concerns you in the same sentence with mediocrity. Whenever you talk about athletes and they do things in excellence, they're the ones who train harder and work harder, and their results show when they're, on the field or whatever it is that they're doing. When it comes to them performing, their results clearly show that they are operating in excellence. Come on. You talk about people, for example, that are neat freaks. We tend to clean above and beyond. We will see the things that the average person will not see when it comes to cleaning. We will be the kind of people who will be like, no, I don't want that there. Just doing things excellently, doing things above and beyond. And there's nothing wrong with being excellent. There's nothing wrong with looking at your performance and saying that I'm going to do well. My dad always says, he taught us to never dumb down to fit in. He says, you do things at an excellent level. You do more than what is required of you. This is what, in the word of God was being talked about. When somebody tells you to go 1 mile, go 2. Somebody asks you for one thing, give them 2 of that. Doing above and beyond the call of duty, doing above and beyond what you've been asked to do, under promising, over delivering. That right there is excellence. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just shouldn't be interchanged with the spirit of excellence. And that's what we're going to look at tonight, because that is that extra oil that God is saying, do not begin your season that has even started right now, but you're going to see the greater manifestation of it in 2016. Do not confuse the two. You cannot start 2016 without embracing the spirit of excellence. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about tonight. So whenever we go to Daniel chapter 1, we find the story of how Daniel and his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and fellow other Jewish people got to be in Babylon. And what had happened was that when you read in Jeremiah, the account in Jeremiah 27, 28, 29, you find that they had rebelled against God. They had continuously rebelled against God. God had restored them, and he had revealed himself to them, and he had given them chance after chance after chance after chance. And God is slow to anger. So these people drove him to the place where he was like, guys, you know what? Seriously, enough is enough. And I keep on telling you guys that I'm the one who delivered you out of Egypt. So I need to put you now in a place where we get some things in order in your life. So I'm going to allow for you to go into captivity just to refocus you guys, to help you refocus and to see me as your God, because you have been rebelling against me. And so that's when he tells them that for 70 years, this is in Jeremiah 27:28, he tells them that for 70 years, and it became 72, you guys are going to be in captivity. Babylon's going to come and take you guys, and you're going to be in captivity, and you're going to be there for 70 years. And so, and he tells them, if any prophet comes and tells you that, God has canceled his word, that person is lying, and they're going to be severely punished. And obviously, yes, a prophet comes up, Jeremiah 28, and comes and says, saying, God has removed this, and just as I'm breaking this yoke, so has God broken the yoke. And God goes and tells Jeremiah, you tell that prophet he's lying, and in this year he's going to die because he's leading my people astray. And he died that same year. So then Jeremiah 29, God starts to encourage his people again. And he's like, guys, listen, you are going to go into captivity. This is going to happen to you. And he says, when you get there, build houses, plant vineyards, marry, take husbands, take wives, have children, settle down, pray for peace where I'm sending you, because the peace of those places determines your well-being. So pray for those places and settle down and, settle in, because for 70 years, you're not going anywhere. And I am not changing my mind about this one. You really have to go. So when we find Daniel first, what has happened is that they've been captured. They have now been taken to Babylon. And it was, if you study anything about kingdoms, of seeing, the movies involving kingdoms, and whenever they captured the kingdom, they would humiliate the king either by killing him or taking him into slavery. Okay, just to humiliate and to show that we have conquered you. And so this is what happens now. They take them and put them in various places, but of the royal family, the nobles, this is when Nebuchadnezzar sends out a decree to his eunuchs and prince of eunuchs to say, I need you guys to pick out the best of these for me, the best of the stock, because I want them to be my scientists. I want them to work with, my soothsayers. I want them to work with, my astrologers and all that kind of stuff. He says, I want the really sharp ones. And so Daniel and his friends are part of this group. So when we start to see him being a part of excellence, now remember the word that he had given in Jeremiah, where he says, settle in, make this place home, because you're not going anywhere. Settle in. So when Daniel in Daniel chapter 1, verse 8, the Bible says, I'm reading from the King James Version. It says, but Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. So two things in there. When you are dealing with the spirit of excellence, the first thing you must purpose in your heart that there are certain things that are not going to fit. You must purpose in your heart that you're going to set yourself apart. You must purpose within your heart that you are going to stand out. You must purpose in your heart that you're going to be different. The spirit of excellence, see how that's different from just being excellent. You're purposing within your heart. And Daniel uses strong language that he would not defile. To defile, it was such strong language, meaning that you're not going to contaminate yourself. You see that throughout the law, that whenever they did certain things like touching a dead body, they were defiling themselves. If they touched blood, they were defiling themselves. So there's certain things they just absolutely could not do. Almost like they aborted, and it was an abomination to do certain things. So you have to use that kind of strong language within yourself. I'm going to be set apart. I'm going to be consecrated. Just like when the children of Israel were about to cross over the Jordan, they were consecrated, set apart. We're going to be different for the mission ahead. So I want to deal with that, because that's the very first part. Even though everybody else around you, and it was okay for them to eat from the king's meat. It really was okay. God was not going to punish them. He had told them, go ahead and get into the culture. Get assimilated into the culture, because you're going to be there for a while. Remember me, but unpack your bags. So Daniel decides and says, no, I'm not going to defile myself. I'm not going to do what everybody else is going to do. I'm going to be set apart. And what I love about this is it was over something very small. It was a meal. I'm telling you, food goes a long way. We are in this mess today that we are. Sin came into the world because Adam and Eve ate something they were not supposed to eat. Come on. So when we are preparing this oil, one of the things that the Lord wants us to do is start doing right now. Not what your neighbor isn't doing, not what how somebody else is messing up and how somebody else is doing whatever. God wants us to take a personal inventory and to look at our own lives and say, God, what's got to go? Some things have just got to go this season. You cannot carry what you used before into a new season. You can't take the old wineskins to put new wine. You got to get rid of some stuff. You have to look within yourself. You're not asking your neighbor what they think. You're not asking somebody else to stop doing what they're doing. It's us focusing on ourselves. What has got to change about me? You don't need to sit down and have a conference call with other people. Look within yourself. You know you. You go to bed with you. You get up with you. You hear yourself think. If you're like me, you talk to yourself. But you know you better than anybody else. You know where you're weak. Nobody's got to tell you where you fall short. If you're stingy, you know you're stingy. Come on. You haven't been through everything that you've been through to not know who you are. God was saying something to the children of Israel in Deuteronomy 8. He says, I took you through the wilderness so I could see what was in your heart. And by God seeing what was in their heart, what he was really saying was so that I could show you what I have always known about you has been in your heart. I just wanted you to be in agreement with me that I see where you need some help. So with everything that you have been through up until this moment, God has been exposing what has been in your heart. So this is the time to say and to acknowledge that this that is in my heart, it cannot go with me. It can't go any further. There's some things that we've just got to start letting go of. Some relationships that, are toxic. It was just a seasonal thing, but they keep carrying on and you keep on hurting one another. Come on. It is time to get some things in order. God, what are some of the things that I need to change? What are some of the things that I need to do? Start taking a personal inventory. Come on, some of you are in ministries you have no business being in. You served in them at a particular time. But to go on with where you need to go, it's time to say goodbye. You have to, don't feel bad, because what's going to happen is when you have to go on, you're going to cause more damage because you are carrying and being in places you're not supposed to be in, carrying things you're not supposed to be carrying into your new season because it's time to go. So it's really asking God, what can I let go of? Just like with the way when a woman is pregnant, especially in her first trimester and also in her third, there's a lot of things that her body is rejecting. Because of what's growing on inside of her. There's a lot of things. So right now, it's almost like that moment where you're just saying, I cannot do this anymore. I'm not going to defile myself with a lot of these, things that I have been doing or that have been okay, or toxic situations, certain circumstances. Listen, if your workplace brings the flesh out of you, listen, maybe it's just time to look for a new job. Don't settle for that in this new season. Come on, God is showing so much favor for you to be in places where you need to be. And it's time for us to really take a personal inventory of God with everything that I'm doing. Will this continue? Because he could have you going somewhere else. Some of you are going to be moving states. It's important that you do that for your assignment ahead. So we've got to really take a personal inventory of, Lord, I'm going to start making changes, and start from the small things. Start from the small places. The smallest thing. Sometimes it could just be the smallest thing, for what it is that you need to do. God, this time I'm going to start with the small thing. Like, God, I hardly ever, if maybe you need to be praying more, praying longer, maybe it being the first thing that you do. This year, maybe that's what you just need to tweak, getting into the word more. Come on, surrounding yourself with people who will help you further in your destiny and your purpose, instead of people who are bringing the worst out of you constantly. Come on, honey, it's not time for that this season. You have to position yourself and say, in order for me to operate in the spirit of excellence, I have to cut off certain things. The Bible says all things are permissible, but not everything is beneficial. So that's what you have to start off with. How does this benefit me? It's not being greedy. It's not having, a sense of pride. It's really saying, is this important for the season that I'm going into? So that's the first thing that he does. He says, I'm not going to eat from the king's meat. And the king's meat, what it meant in those times was, whenever you sat down to have a meal with somebody, what you were actually saying was, I approve of the things that you do. So that's why whenever Jesus would have meals with sinners, it drove the Pharisees absolutely bonkers, because they were like, what? He even sits down to eat with them? Like, who is this guy? Does he agree with the things that they do? And they were very angry with Jesus. So it was the same thing, that same concept in biblical times. You had to be very careful who you shared a meal with, because you were agreeing with their lifestyle. And so he was saying, listen, if I'm going to be set apart from Babylon, one of the things that I have to do is eat differently from the way that Babylonians eat. Come on, are you going to be this disciplined this season? What are you going to let go of? What are the small things that you need to change? Come on, some of you listen to a little less secular music. Come on, somebody. Music is a very powerful thing. I don't even know why I'm going in this. You got to be careful. What are you allowing into your ear gate? It's not every show that comes on TV that you got to be watching. Watch less TV. Work on your dream. Instead of watching other people who have made theirs. Are you listening? What are you paying attention to? What's going into your eye gate and your ear gate? Those are two gates that demonic forces use greatly to get your attention and to distract you, because they can't stop you from your purpose, so they distract you. So be very careful. The second thing that I love, and this is where sometimes we as Christians have really messed up, okay? Once we decide that we are going to be set apart for something, our attitudes towards people sometimes tend to be a little funky. But when you look at Daniel in the same verse, he says, and he pleaded, or he requested to the prince of the eunuchs, and says, this is the situation. Please, may I? Come on. Look, God's going to allow you to have favor with people. And this is something that I'm really praying we do not lose this season. Come on, manners, being polite. You don't have to be rude because you have set yourself apart. He was respecting his leadership. His leadership may not have been on board with him, but Daniel requested. Come on, he showed respect for leadership. Not, no, I got this, whatever, who needs you? No, I'm just going to do what I want to do. No, he was polite enough. Come on, we need to be at a place where we continue to respect those in leadership. With elections coming up, I don't want to get into all that, but we must also remember this, whoever comes in place has been given that place by God. It's a God-given authority. Don't be part of the crowd who's cussing out the president. Don't be part of the crowd who does what? No, you set yourself apart and say, God, I did my civil duty and I voted. But God, who comes in power, I'm going to be set apart and I'm going to pray. I'm going to make a difference. Come on. We have not seen bad leadership. I mean, they have their moments, but we have not seen. When you're talking about people like a king like Nebuchadnezzar, he was horrid. This was a guy who ripped out babies from pregnant women's bellies. You don't know bad leadership. You have not experienced it yet. Come on, somebody. But God calls us to pray for these leaders. I want you in 2016 to be the kind of leader who prays for your leadership. I want you to be the kind of person who operating in the spirit of excellence, who still has respect for leadership. Because especially if you're a grown-up and you work and you have children, if you're a parent, somebody answers to you. And whatever seed you plant, come on, somebody, you're going to reap. Be careful who you are disrespecting who's in leadership. Be very, 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 very careful. Get into a time, be more comfortable actually with praying for your leadership than bad mouthing them. You have children, you have great grandchildren, you have employees, you have all this kind of stuff. Or people who answer to you. Be extremely careful how you talk about leadership. Your job is to pray. Your job is to be different. Don't worry about what the people in government are doing or not doing. God is looking at you saying, what are you doing? Daniel didn't sit there trying to change Nebuchadnezzar. He says, I'm going to be different. Come on, somebody. I got to talk about this. Don't talk about what White House is not doing. God is saying, what are you doing? What are you doing to make a difference? You have a neighborhood. Have you began to reach it? Have you began to do certain things? Change the world for somebody. Come on, let's take back the personal responsibility and say, God, I'm here to make a difference. Not that we shouldn't keep our leaders accountable, but we've got to be the kind of people, if we're going to operate in the spirit of excellence, come on, let's do this thing right. Respect your leadership. He requested. And when his leader said to him, no, I don't want to be in trouble with my king. So Daniel says, this is the third thing. In his firmness, I love this. In his firmness to stand his ground, he doesn't stand there bickering with leadership. He knows that what he's doing is so much of God that he's willing to say, test me in this. Come on. Let's be the kind of people who are going to be producing results when we talk about stuff. When we say that we are this, we need to start producing fruit. If we're going to talk about being people of integrity, if we're going to start talking about being people who have the spirit of excellence, don't say one thing and you do something else. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. We got to be people who want to produce results. Results, and the way I define ability, the way you start and also the way you finish. Because sometimes we tend to start things, but we don't finish them. Finish well. Finish strong. Have the kind of conviction that allows you to finish strong and to produce results. Let that strong conviction that's inside of you not just be talk, but a person who is about producing results. Whatever you set your mind to do, set your mind to do it that they are results. And then with the spirit of excellence, what's also very powerful about it is that when you're operating in the spirit of excellence, your voice to speak up, to set yourself apart, releases other people to do the same thing. Daniel is the one who's talking with the prince of the eunuchs, but he has 4 friends who are thinking just like him, but maybe are not as eloquent and don't know how to say it. And they're feeling this conviction and notice that maybe Daniel's got more favor. But because of Daniel doing this, he was able to allow other people to flow in the same level of conviction. So whenever you stand out with whenever you stand out in the spirit of excellence, you're going to be pulling other people who want to do the same thing. You're an encourager to other people who want to stand out and do the right thing. Come on, let's get this oil in our lamps ready.